Think. Act. And prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show. We're welcoming back Fabi of the Next Big Rush. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Daryl?
Doing pretty good, getting over a little cold, but it's just a little cold, right?
Just a little cold, man. Nothing something like vitamin C can cure.
Life goes on,
That's
So
it.
yeah, wanted to get some updates from you in terms of uranium. We saw a lot of the uranium mining stocks and such sell off significantly recently. And so I want to get your outlook on what's going on in the uranium market right now.
Sentiment is probably the worst I have ever seen of anything I've been invested in. Which I've been investing not that long ago, but we're saying just over a decade, including gold. Silver went through something similar. I want to say 18 months to 2 years ago, and now it's making a really nice comeback. The juniors are at valuations that are a disaster, just a disaster. So if you take a look at, our highs in 2021 in November, that's when the juniors hit their highest and they haven't recovered since. And if you take just the last, last 6 months or something like the last 9 months, it's just been, people selling off and then selling off, just completely capitulating. So sentiment is the worst I've ever seen, which means it's the best for a contrarian investor. You could take a look at any sort of portfolio. I'm in a very lucky position because I am, positioned quite strongly in my own company that I'm on the board of. And we are extreme. How can I put this nicely? We don't spend money unless we absolutely have to. So we have not issued many shares and we haven't diluted our shareholders, which means that we're actually up, since that high. Because, we've only been a public company for 2 full years. But this is not the norm. Both, I want to say, Myriad, Uranium, or Rushwe Metals, and maybe a couple of others are up. And most other companies are way, way down. Some of the companies that I've worked with are also, very high percentages down. So sentiment is the worst. And then you got to take a look at supply and demand, right? You came across a yellow cake report recently. And also there's some very interesting snippets resurfacing about supply and demand and, the argument of, okay, if supply and demand has been so bad, then how come we don't see price movement? How is this not reflecting in the spot price? Because the spot price right now is not doing great compared to, its highs of 107. I think we're at 60 something, 60-ish. And what gives? Well, it goes back to something that I mentioned in a different interview, maybe, 2 weeks ago. What happens in the uranium space is that nobody really wants to buy uranium if you're a user of uranium. What you want is nuclear fuel. And so you do everything in your power, as long as it makes sense, for you to not to have to buy uranium, because once you get the uranium, you can't do anything with it. You have to, turn it into UF6 and it has to be enriched, et cetera, et cetera. There are many, many steps from getting the uranium to actually getting it to be useful in most nuclear power plants. And so what is customary, safe, and the norm in the industry is to have several years worth of inventory. But the several years can be anything from like 18 months to 10 years. And so what happened is, in the depths of the bear market, whenever I was, started to invest in this space, and it was just $18 a pound, which if we think about it, we're over 60, and it was 18 at one point, and I've been talking about it since then. So people have had a long time to profit from this trade. Back then, and what created that whole bear market was the fact that people had a lot of, or utilities had a lot of inventory. It didn't make sense for anybody to hold, especially because the clients or the utilities that usually keep the most amount of inventory are the Japanese. They had 8 to 10 years. And then what they did is they would lend it or sell it in the market. And so not only were people not investing in new build outs, but they were also just being able to extract more from enrichment facilities. And it's the whole overfeeding, underfeeding phenomena. So if you have more time to deliver, you can extract more from the same sort of material. So that happened as well. But then the people who held the most and the longest didn't even want it at all. So it flooded the market and just completely dragged it down. No new projects coming online, etc. It was just like the doldrums. And it wasn't even just bad. It was just boring because nothing happened, right? That has completely shifted. So let's go to the fundamental thesis. That has completely shifted. The supply side is still extremely, extremely limited. There are no new mines. The one mine that I was sure was going to come online very quickly was Global Atomic. That's not happening anymore, or not quickly enough. And it's not going to happen in the way that most people have expected or predicted because of the whole Niger situation, the political coup that's happening there. And then you have this other project, Next Gen, right? Super rich, nowhere near production yet, behind financing, permitting, etc. Way too many steps until we get into production. Will be a massive producer of the stuff. I do believe in it. But we are so many steps away from it. And the fact that it's not, a happy-go-lucky massive bull market right now, there's no reason for them to be in any hurry to be producing, which makes the situation even worse. And so the fundamental thesis is that more and more demand has come in the last, I want to say, 3 years than I had ever seen in the trade, years and years and years before that. That all happened. That's not going away. People are saying, oh, the data centers, they're not going to happen. It's going to be, natural gas. It's going to be something else. It kind of doesn't matter. The world is reaching a level of energy necessity and consumption unlike we've ever seen before. With capitalism, when India gets a little bit richer, there's a commodity boom. In the US, people more or less have reached a level of and I'm talking about the Western world, but the US is a great example of this, 300 plus million people. When the economy gets better, people buy services, they invest, they throw it on crypto. They don't really buy that much more stuff. But when that happens in the emerging markets, India, China, Brazil, Turkey, Indonesia, South Africa, people go from riding a bike to riding a motorbike to buying a car to, upgrading their homes, eventually buying a second home, etc. The amount of commodities that are necessary for this is absolutely massive. And the same is happening with electricity and energy in general. These people are moving up one tiny little bit in, their capitalist pursuit. And that means that they need absolutely a heck of a lot more power, a heck of a lot more energy than we've ever seen before. The fact that AI has broken out and is completely a cat out of the bag, you can't put it back in, the genie has, gone rogue. It also means that we're going to need more and more and more and more technology, more production, more energy, more of everything. And so a problem that I see is that people don't understand that whether we go for natural gas or oil or, a green energy or nuclear, we are going to need more of everything, period. Unless there is both a massive breakthrough in technology and that breakthrough in technology is commercially viable and can be implemented alongside governments very, very quickly, there is no future in the next 5 to 10 years to you pick a number where we're not going to need more of all sorts of energy. Now, the reason why I still believe that uranium is a super opportunity, and I've been saying this for a long time, the highs and the lows, they may reflect, the opportunities to buy and sell, but this still stands. We're still going to need, we're going to be sitting here, Daryl, you and I, and in 2 years from now, I don't plan on having fewer electronics, right? Heck, if Elon Musk figures out how to have that robot thing, I'm going to buy 2 or 3 and they're going to be running around the house and they're going to be cleaning, they're going to be cooking, they're going to be doing the work for me. And there's just more and more need for all of these breakthroughs that are happening right now in science and technology. Same with the medical field. There's some massive breakthroughs happening that we haven't even heard of. And so in every area that we see, there is nothing that's being done looking ahead that doesn't require more of this electricity. The reason why uranium is such a great opportunity is because you could say, hey, Fabi, yeah, okay, I buy into the whole, we're going to need more energy thesis. Why not like solar? Why not wind instead of nuclear? Well, the reason why we need nuclear, I believe, is that you have nuclear day in, day out, whether the weather is good or not, whether there's wind or not. I live in a beautiful part of Portugal, and there are some very ugly sites here hidden in the mountains with tons of solar. And good on the people who rented out their land for solar. They're making a little bit of residual income there. But at the same time, sometimes, stuff gets stolen. Sometimes there's, a hailstorm, and then that whole thing needs to be replaced and it's not generating as much energy. With the nuclear power plant, it's just on 24/7 and it provides baseload power. That's basically what it means. One other factor as to why uranium specifically, and not just the nuclear story, is because uranium has that particular supply constraint that some other, I guess, vehicles may not have. So with solar, now they're figuring out how to put titanium, if I'm not mistaken, in the solar panels, which will make them even more powerful. It's great. I love it. But I was trying to figure this out. What will this do to the titanium market? Well, it's going to be an increase of about 2.5 to 3%. That means nothing, right? It's very little change if all of a sudden we changed completely to titanium. So if you look at uranium, how often do we see a new uranium mine come into production? Like, we don't see it. I can't even think of a uranium mine that has come into production and actually, been hitting the numbers that it promised to hit ever. It's always lower. It's always much lower than what they previously have on their sales materials. And so because nobody wants to have a uranium mine close to them, nobody wants to put something like that into production. The people that want to, they have to get the right people on the bus that know how to put a uranium mine into production. And nobody wants to permit that kind of thing. You have a constrained market that only needs to wait for the demand to kick in at the right time so that it gets completely out of control. And so that is the bet with uranium. It's that we're going to need more energy. And because it's a constrained market, eventually utility buyers that have been humming and hawing, and, there's this whole Russia thing, Ukraine thing, and I'm not, any geopolitical expert here, but at the end of the day, it comes down to, are we going to need it? Where are you going to bet that's going to be constrained on the supply side? Because the demand side, I'm bullish for all of energy really.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So, the population growth continues to increase. So that's one thing. We don't have laws prohibiting, how many children you can have and such. I think that they started implementing those laws because of the massive population growth in the past, and you have these countries like India, coming online, becoming more technologically savvy. More people are getting access to banking. More people are getting access to cell phones and transportation and all of these different things. And so that's adding a lot more pressure on the demand for all commodities, right? And so when we're looking at uranium in particular, I mean the yellow cake projection that we just saw. We were talking offline, and it seemed a little more conservative on the demand side, and so we did have this big we had the big contracts with like Microsoft and Google and Amazon, and they were wanting to bring on small modular reactors, and we had deals with Constellation Energy and such. And so what's happening there? Like, I mean, are we still like a long ways off from like these SMRs and such? I mean, because I've seen some of these nuclear reactor companies come on, and the prices of them are shooting up pretty significantly, but I'm not sure. Many of them are saying like they're about 5 to 10 years out from even producing some type of reactor that could be used, and people actually start to benefit from it.
Yeah, so my understanding is that it has very little to do with the actual technology. The technology has been available for quite a long time. It has a lot more to do with the permitting process. And if we're to take the United States, by any example, the question and the bet that people are making is that this new administration is going to cut down red tape across the board, which means that more people are willing to today invest in more mining projects inside the USA. And also as a consequence of that, that whole, supply line, I guess, is going to affect the tech projects as well. And so if that becomes true, then I think we're going to see SMRs being built and deployed in the USA faster than we could possibly imagine, because the technology is there. There is an issue, I guess, with the supply, because you need special fuel for these power plants that are very specific. And so that's an opportunity as well within the uranium industry to go along that thesis. But the fact of the matter is, if that doesn't happen, the fact that we need data centers plus everything else that we were going to need, and you imagine the demand side going up, the AI data centers just speed it up a little bit more. And so it's a matter of, okay, we're going to get the energy from somewhere. And if it's short term in natural gas, which a lot of people are saying, then that's okay, because that means that data centers will get their electricity from natural gas in the short term. But in the long term, I'm not going to, not have electricity because of a data center, and you won't either. You're going to get it from somewhere. And so somewhere is going to have to be a mixture of everything that we know to provide, electricity, especially baseload electricity, because in a world where there is right now a technological war going on, West versus East or versus everybody else, you cannot do it without a ton of energy, whether that's, through just improved technology or actual just build outs, massive build outs, whether that be government or privately done. It's just the stuff that we need.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, so many investors are being spooked out right now with some of these uranium miners and everything, even the ETFs, and I mean everything just got clobbered. Um, there was multiple things that led up to this. I mean, obviously Yellow Cake put out this report, which I don't know how much of a catalyst that was for the recent downturn. But we also had the issue with DeepSeek, and we had the issue of Inkai. That I don't know. It seemed like it was multiple things kind of leading up to this sell off.
Mhm.
How'd you factor in the whole DeepSeek story? I mean, 'cause that impacted a lot of the AI data center
Yeah.
narrative or whatnot, and that
Yeah.
came out like right after I think Trump said he was going to put 500. The government's going to invest 500 billion in AI infrastructure. I think Apple just came out and said they're going to invest 500 billion in that as well. But um, did you factor in any of that? I mean, is that just like the spooky stories that just scare investors out, and we just have to wait for some good stories to pop up again? What's kind of your outlook there?
So I'm going to give you an example of the difference between somebody like me who's just an investor and tries to figure out stuff and make bets versus somebody who actually knows the technology and is taking that knowledge and applying it to the market. So I follow a guy that I've had on my show called Gavin McCracken. People should go follow him on Twitter. He's excellent. He's at Gav McCracken. He is an AI PhD out of Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. And he is like all into uranium because he understands where AI is right now. And so the the way I see it is the people who understand where this is going are doubling down, and he is making massive bets, and he's buying Denison right now, and he's just like publishing his buys, and it's getting kind of insane the amount of money that he's putting into uranium now, plus whatever he had before. I think that's a massive signal of things to come. The other way of looking at this is I think people need to be very honest with themselves. The people who are really hurting right now are people who made bets that were way too big at prices that did not make sense to begin with, right? So when you're really excited, when things are going up and you're buying everything and you feel like you're in a hurry, there's FOMO, et cetera, that's the worst time to buy. If you still believe in the fundamental thesis of uranium and you're looking at these prices and you don't buy, then it doesn't make any sense to me. If people are getting out, it's because they put too much money in something that they didn't understand. Now, the question is, do you still believe that that piece of the company that you purchased is still going to be worth something a lot higher than what you purchased it for if something in the market changes? And that something needs to be your knowledge of the fundamental thesis or your knowledge of the company. Fact is, a lot of these companies spend way too much money on a monthly basis on things that do not matter. So go back to your buys, take a look at their burn, take a look at how much they're spending on G&A, on salaries, on fees to professionals that are just, it's like they're sitting on a desk and they're signing papers and they're each pushing papers towards each other and just signing.
Yeah, F1, we
Think,
can talk Formula One.
think of there you go. I didn't want to say it, but think about that. Consider the fact that there is an ongoing cost to every one of these companies, and some of them are so cheap that they're not going to remain cheap forever. Let's just put it this way. And it comes and goes, and that's the market. But then, I've always told people, like, make this a part of your portfolio. Mining needs to be a part of your larger portfolio, and uranium mining needs to be yet another part of your mining portfolio. That's a part of your larger portfolio. So people are going insane and calling out people and getting mad for their own losses online, which I think is a little bit. I'm sad for them, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I've been warning you all these years. Buy small, know what you're buying, make sure that people aren't spending money foolishly, and just time your buys. Like I said, the company that I've been promoting the most, the one that I actually have somewhat control over, is a company that is actually up. And so it comes with not spending money when it doesn't make sense to spend money, which is very tough to do because many people don't promote the fact that they're not spending money. It doesn't make any business sense, but it actually does. As an investor, it does. And so pay attention to the people not advancing, not doing anything. And sometimes that actually works out better than people just, putting way too much money into the ground or into their pockets or into somebody else's pockets at a time where the market isn't going to give them credit for that. So that is my recommendation to people. Watch out, watch out.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and there's already a disconnect between like value and and hype. Some folks are just chasing the price. I mean, Dennison has been. I mean, even when Dennison was at like $2 and some change, I mean, that was still uh, unjustly at that price. Compared to some of the other companies, and now Dennison is like cratered a lot. And I keep hearing from multiple people, Dennison is a really solid company. And so it's like, okay, well, it sounds like people are chasing some of the companies that aren't as solid, and then you have these valuation disconnects or something like that. I don't know. It's been happening in the broader market too, where people are chasing these companies with higher valuations, and then the stocks that are like, these are really solid companies. These are companies that are going to, that are printing cash, or they're going to sign these contracts within the term market or whatnot. Sometimes people aren't really chasing those companies like they are the other hype stocks. That they'll go invest in the in the AI company versus like the underlying commodity that's needed to help fuel that company. And so, what's your view there on the whole valuation aspect?
My question is, if a project's been worth X before and it's worth Y now, why wouldn't it be worth X eventually again? And what does it need to get there? I'll tell you right now, what it needs in the uranium space and the juniors is very simple. The price of one tiny little market needs to go up. The price of spot uranium. And we're sitting here talking about all of the tragedy in the juniors. It's because it's reflected in this retail price sensitivity to the spot price, when the long-term pricing of uranium has been going up and it has not stopped going up. So really, the commodity is still going up in price, but the spot market is trading much, much lower than the long term. I mean, the ceilings that are being contracted to this day, that I'm hearing, are still $130 for the long-term contract. Unfortunately, people will lose out because they're going to sell. They have been selling right now. And smart money is going to come in and it's going to buy it off them, and they're going to regret it. But sometimes you got to liquidate, you got to pay bills and do things. But my view is, you need to have conviction in whatever it is you buy. Because okay, you sell at a loss or at a gain, whatever. What are you going to put your money into that you have more conviction than this? Is it AI? Cool. I'm putting some money towards AI. I'm working towards AI. My vision is, I am going to work in the AI industry or levered in the AI industry, make hopefully tons of money, and then put that into more uranium stocks, because the cheapest thing right now is uranium stocks. I'm looking at some valuations, some even public companies, and I wish I had enough money to go in and like literally buy whole companies right now. They're so cheap.
Yeah. That's some good advice. So Fabi, thank you for coming on and everything. Everyone, I mean, just if you're invested in this trade, we've talked about this multiple times over multiple years. Um, I mean, I think it's one thing where people, I guess, need to know when to sell, and if you don't know when to sell, some folks are more savvy in terms of like how to say like, okay, the market's getting overheated. Let me get out and get back in. Some people are savvy in that way, and then some people are just waiting for the long term, and then some people just see the price drop and they just capitulate. And so, really, just continue to build your conviction around this asset is important. You should always be educating yourself. And so, Fabi, thank you for coming on and sharing your views with us. Where can people find more about you and the work that you're doing?
Thank you so much, Daryl. So they can find me on The Next Big Rush. I'm everywhere on YouTube, on X, and also on the website where you can get access to my free daily newsletter at thenextbigrush.com.
All right, sounds good. I'll link to that in the description below. Be sure to go check it out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.